Now, this story, Republican County chairpersons say candidates are being unfairly targeted and discredited, claiming there's a dark money scandal involving the Stronger Wisconsin Fund. Now, the fund is a new dark money group that registered as an independent expenditure with the state's election commission back in July. Some county-level Republicans say they've confirmed the group does not have an account or mailbox at the address they provided, alleging address fraud is being committed. They also say the fund has made allegations about the candidates that are untrue, stating them as fact. Both the candidates and the conservative county chairs gathered today, accusing outside interests of having too much sway in Republican representatives in Madison.
This isn't Evers' fault. This is the fault of the Senate and the legislature that refused to finish the job. And people are starting to realize it. And I think what's happened is it's turning the average voter away. They just feel like they voted time and time and time again. Nothing changes. And now a lot of them are just giving up.
Wisconsin Representative David Steffen released a statement on the supposed scandal today saying, quoting, "Now, this is the very reason I, along with 10 other state representatives, introduced Assembly Joint Resolution 141 aimed at regulating outside political spending by these groups. I stand by my efforts to oppose dark money in our campaigns and demand greater transparency and accountability for these organizations and those who fund them," end quote.